Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Matty A.
Well, I'm excited to welcome to the show, Mr. Cameron Herold. How we doing, my friend?
Good, Matthew. How you doing?
We're hanging. Just right now, obviously trying to put out as much content and value to our audience and, a lot of people who are struggling during these challenging times. And I'm sure you have a ton of people reaching out to you. Would that be an accurate assessment on some guidance and direction through these times?
Yeah, pretty accurate. I mean, I've been coaching real companies, typically 50 to 500 employees for the last 13 years. And I've also navigated 3 big economic downturns. I ran my first company during the 1987 downturn where I had 12 employees, so small business. The second big economic downturn that I navigated through was the 2000-2001 stock market crash, the first real stock market crash for the dot-com era. And I was building 1-800-GOT-JUNK at that point, so building a bigger business. And then in the 2008-2009 downturn, I was coaching about 15 different CEOs globally, so really had some good visibility to growing through that one. So I've been around this a number of times now, so I get it.
What feels different about this time than previous, or does it feel different?
Well, yeah, one of the big things that's different right now versus previous is the stock market has not really crashed yet. I mean, we had a brief crash with a correction, but all economic signs are pointing that we're going to actually have a fairly significant 2 to 3 year economic downturn, recession / depression, possibly stagflation.
Yep.
Because we've printed so much money, it looks like it might be back to a 1974 style stagflation, where we have inflation and a recession at the same time. And that's very, very unusual, but we've printed so much money. We've put $4 trillion back into the money supply. That money is going to be chasing goods and services that don't necessarily exist. And we've devalued that currency by putting so much out there. But then because all of these, there's 25 million unemployed, they're not going to get absorbed overnight.
No way.
All of these small businesses that really have taken the government money as a grant, but they're not really going to employ more people because of it. That PPP has just really been money to pad the coffers of businesses that are getting hurt. But a lot of the small 1 to 10 person companies won't reopen. The small restaurants, the small massage places, the nail parlors, a lot of those places are just going to get hurt. And then the real estate downturn, the housing market's getting hit, the commercial real estate market's getting hit, the hotel industry, airline industry, all of those have major reverberations that we haven't got Q1 results in yet. So once the Q1 results start coming in, that's when we should see the downturn. So that's what's different is we're already in a recession, but we've got so much money chasing goods and services, and companies are being told globally to shut down, which is very different. Then we've also got supply chains starting to seize up. So we have farmers and animal people that are raising animals that can't actually even sell their products because there's no buyers. When all the restaurants shut down, there's no buyers for pork and for beef and for chicken and for fish. All those people have all this product that they can't do anything with. So they're either killing it all off. A lot of the fruits and vegetables can't be shipped to markets because 80% of their buyers aren't even buying. So there's supply chains are starting to seize up. All that's very different from the normal recessions.
Where do you see the biggest challenge for the small business owner, entrepreneur, operator right now that if they lean into it, they can weather the storm and get in front of it?
Yeah, it's really around the fact that the small business owner, in reality, all businesses have 3 inputs. We have people, we have time, and we have money. And it's how are we going to use those 3 things to get the highest return on investment? How are we going to use our time? How are we going to use the people, whether it's ourselves plus any employees, and how are we going to use our money to get the highest outputs? So, you think about time right now. Well, any time that you're spending on social media, reading about how bad it is, you're taking away from the time that you could be spending on marketing and sales and PR and driving the business forward. Any negative energy that you're feeding yourself with, whether it be pain or worry, misery loves company. So the more that you're hanging out with people that are negative or worried or fearful, the more you're bringing that negative energy into your business instead of spending time with people that are positive, abundance mindset driving forward. Because the reality is, even though the economy is going to hurt, there's still a lot of money to be made. Like I made a lot of money in the 2001 market crash when people were scared to death. I started buying all these really good companies. I bought Apple stock at $79. It's split twice since. I bought Starbucks stock at $60. It's like I bought some really good companies that were going to be around forever. 2009 crash, same thing. I was up 108% on 1 year because I bought 8 companies and I went deep when everyone was panicking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just around being strategic, applying your time and money and people in the right area, and then around getting away from the doom and gloom and thinking about how are you proactively going to grow during this time.
Yeah, you if you're tuned into the channel of negativity and doom and gloom, right? That's the mentality and most likely the actions you're going to be taking or not taking because of what you're tuned into. Where do you see the
Well, you're going
opportunity?
to find you end up with more confirmation bias. So because you're looking for negative news, you're going to see more negative news. It becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of looking for the positive, finding the positive, seeing the positive, getting excited because of the positive, and that driving more positive momentum.
So I've been very careful about who I'm allowing to counsel me based on a variety of reasons, results, resume, who their community is, but also, right, do I feel aligned with their core values, their mindset, things like that. What are you doing right now in regards to restricting or kind of building barriers up around you? Because a lot of people are going, I can't block that person out. Or how can someone be more aware and attentive to the information or the influence people or environments or resources are having over them right now?
I think one is looking for the bias, the natural bias that already exists in all of the outlets that you're consuming media in. So it's being aware that there's bias and not using your own bias to counter it or to say, oh, it's not really that bad. So looking for that balance, looking for balanced news, and then also saying the reality is it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. I may as well focus on what I can control, right? There's that whole serenity prayer that they use in a lot of the 12-step groups that I think can be really powerful right now, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, the reality is right now, a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff that's out there that you can't do anything about anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yep.
But control the controllables, right? Find the things that are within your control and control those. So that's powerful right now. I'm in a few different mastermind groups. I'm in War Room, the Genius Network. I connect with a group out of Baby Bathwater. I'm still heavily connected with the TED community because I go to the main TED conference and have gone for the last 10 years. So just kind of like I just watched a spectacular video that Ray Dollywall did for TED about 2 weeks ago. Ray Dollywall, who was the author of the book Principles, one of the best, smartest guys on Wall Street.
Yep.
When you start surrounding yourself with people like that and consuming content from different perspectives, and then also realizing that getting more content isn't necessarily going to grow my company. What will grow my company is focus.
So tell me about some of the opportunities people should be paying attention to right now, whether that's opportunities in their personal life, in their business life, in the global.
Sure. There's a lot of opportunities to grow your skill set and your mindset right now because thought leaders are giving away more content than ever for free.
Yep.
So devouring that content, listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, participating in their free courses, showing up for their webinars or their Zoom webinars, which often they were giving away for free. Every hour that you spend on growing yourself becomes like putting something up into orbit that stays with you forever. But all the time you can waste on social media, just on Facebook, consuming nothing, doesn't necessarily drive you forward. Another one is thinking about your goals, right? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So really deciding where you're going, thinking about your goals, driving towards those goals, and then applying your learning and the content devouring that you're doing towards those goals, right? So, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I've taken one of my COO Alliance events. I run one of the only network of its kind in the world for the second in command, and we're taking our April event online. So tomorrow and Thursday, we've got a number of seconds in command from all over the world coming to this online event. So I've been reading and listening to books and podcasts on running virtual events so that I can provide the best quality content tomorrow and Thursday on running a virtual event.
So there's obviously this hashtag work from home trend, right? Happening. A lot of businesses, one, being forced to figure out how to operate online, as well as, one of my favorite books of yours is Meetings Suck, right? And a lot of people now having to figure out how does their team operate, or even just with customers or vendors, how do you continue to create and build culture and to create
Yeah,
efficiencies and productivities.
this is going to be a huge positive shift for all companies, is the ability to now realize that you can run remote teams, remote employees, remote meetings, etc. So, I have a client who's in Colombia. They've got 800 employees in Colombia. They've always been a location-based business, everyone working from the same office building. Well, a month ago, in 1 week, they moved 700 people to work from home. The following week, 50 more people were working from home. And then the last week, they finally got internet access set up for the final 50. All 800 people work from home. And the CEO is sitting down now going, maybe we could hire people remote. Maybe we don't need this office for 800 people. Maybe we could hire people in other countries. So companies that have never, ever thought you could be remote are now seeing that they could be remote. Companies that were really forced into this location-based business are realizing that a lot of that location-based stuff is overhead they don't necessarily need.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to see a quantum shift very, very quickly from a vast majority of companies that never thought it was possible to now thinking not only is it possible, but it's more profitable and it's smarter to run with remote-based teams. So I think we're going to see big organizations. I think we'll see a big collapse of the commercial real estate sector in the office space because companies just don't need that space.
Yep.
Landlords can't be as egregious as they used to be with rent. So I think we're going to see a big shift there. And then I think the reality is for employees, they're all of a sudden it's going to untether them where they say, you know what, fuck it. I'm never going to go back to a job where I have to drive 40 minutes to work anymore. Like I worked from home for 13 years, so it's no big change for me. But there's going to be employees who for the first time in history have worked from home for the last 6 weeks. And they're going, I kind of like this. I kind of like waking up and having a shower and being at my desk 7 minutes later. I kind of like walking to the kitchen for lunch and being back at my desk 4 minutes later. I like that I'm not spending money on parking or gas or time in traffic or lunches. Like there's going to be a lot of employees that say, you know what, I will never, ever work from a location-based business again. Those are big positive quantum shifts in business.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people, some of the conversations I've been hearing from listeners of the show is, hey, my team is going online. We are, using the Zooms and the GoToMeetings. And at the same time, they're going, I feel like I'm losing culture. I'm losing that identity of our brand as we have been dispersed and somewhat separated. How do you think?
So I would say, are you reading any podcasts or reading any books or devouring any videos on how to build remote team cultures? How many hours or even minutes have you spent on learning how to build a remote-based culture? Most of the people that are complaining about it or worried about it are being sucked into the negative vortex and have probably not spent more than 10 minutes, if at all, reading anything about building remote-based teams. So I coach a company that last year was ranked as the #2 company in the United States to work for on Glassdoor. They have 140 employees and they're all remote. All 140. They've never had an office. I've got another client of mine that I'm coaching right now who's got 80 employees. They've never had an office. So they spend all of their time thinking about building remote-based teams with employees all over the world. This isn't a problem for them. The only people it's a problem with are the people that see it as a problem, and their confirmation bias is showing them it's a problem, but they're not spending any time looking for how to make it better. So what they do is they bitch about how hard it is instead of looking to make it better.
What are some of the things that you have seen in some of those amazing companies that are remote with great culture that they have implemented? Is it communication system? Is it?
I've got a client of mine who has got 50 employees. They're all remote, and they used to have people in an office, and they used to have donut day. And so all the employees would come and grab a donut. So they spent money the other day delivering one donut to every single employee.
Wow.
Like a little bit expensive to deliver a single donut, but the reality is what they used to spend on office space was offset. Or they send Uber Eats gift cards to people and they have lunch together. On Thursdays, they do TED Talk Thursdays. They sit and everybody orders Uber. It all shows up. They sit at their wherever in their home watching a TED Talk together on Zoom, talking about it, and they're connecting that way. They're talking to employees over Slack and over Zoom, and they're training people on how to use that technology. And then they're recognizing that they can bring people in for remote events every quarter or every 6 months. You can bring people into a secondary city and a secondary market to have an all-company meeting where you actually connect and get to know each other.
Right.
Their other thing they're doing is they're making sure their employees have lives. And those lives have to exist outside of the day-to-day 9 to 5 in the office. So they're making sure their employees are plugged into their bucket list, that their employees are participating in sports and social clubs, that their employees are participating in hobbies and connecting with friends and family. So they're working hard to make sure that their employees are plugged into these other networks outside of the workforce.
I love that. I think that right there is something to be spotlighted, being that so many people can find the connection in the value while still being remote. If you plan and get creative and execute accordingly, it can almost be compounded and have a much greater impact than you could have if you're all 50, 100, 200 people packed in one building and you don't see anybody for the entire quarter anyways.
Oh, and if you spend time thinking about it, if the goal is, I really want to make this an amazing experience for our remote employees, I really want my remote employees to feel connected to work. If you ask yourself those questions and then you think about how to do that, and then you talk to other companies to find out how they're doing it, and you talk to your employees and find out what their needs are and how to help make those needs happen, then you will, right? But if you don't, then you'll end up focusing on other stuff. You'll focus on the wrong stuff. I always talk about the letter to Santa Claus. If you asked a kid who's 3 years old, what do you want from Santa? And they write a letter to Santa and their mom helps them write the letter. And then mom and the kid walk off to the mailbox and they put the letter in the mailbox to Santa. And then 6 weeks later, all of a sudden, the kid comes running down to the Christmas tree and 3 of my gifts that I asked Santa are under the tree. Like Santa read my letter. No, your mom read your fucking letter. But so to find out what the kid wants, you ask them and then you buy that for them. To find out what your employees need to be happy, ask them, what do you need to be happy? What would make you feel more connected? What would make you feel like you're a part of a culture? How do we get you some of the things that'll make you feel like you're part of it? Is it swag? Is it, backgrounds on green screens for Zoom? Is it connecting with each other? Is it putting goals in place to get our bucket list created? Or is it making you realize that maybe a business is only what you do to make money, that we need to get you feeling connected with your life so that now you're a part of a company that gives you your life back as well? Like, what are the things that you're searching for?
Yeah, I love that.
So as a company, it's actually giving a shit about our employees and really being connected with their fears, their insecurities, their dreams, their bucket list, and helping to make that stuff happen.
And this is an opportunity that if people use it accordingly, it's going to serve their business at a really high level. And sometimes they probably haven't even had time to think about these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
What about on trends that you're seeing? What are some of the trends that you are seeing in small business right now that people should be thinking about, maybe adopting, maybe leaning into, sharpening the axe on, that maybe they weren't forced to think about 60 days ago?
Well, one is that, if your competition is drowning, stick a hose in their mouth. So if you're a small business that competes against other small businesses, try to hire some of their better employees. Right now, marketing and advertising is cheaper than it's ever been before. So negotiating or renegotiating your ad buys with anybody you're purchasing advertising from. Looking to generate free publicity about your customers and how your customers are benefiting from your product or service. So, read the book Free PR and do what it says about trying to generate more free publicity. That would be helpful. So it's just those kinds of things I think can really help take people up the next level.
And what about the company, that is either flight, running in the other direction, or, frozen right now and just sitting on their hands? What do you say to that company that is this a good time to grow right now?
Well, you need a new vision. You need to have a 3-year vision that you can lean into that inspires you. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So most employees that are frozen right now don't have a vision. They're not entirely sure where they're going. So they don't have anything that they can try to make happen. If you've got a vision for where you're going 3 years out, you can lean into that and you can reverse engineer every sentence. So I talk about, in the book Double Double, in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and in the book Vivid Vision, I talk about crafting a 4 or 5 page written description of what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like 3 years in the future. And then if you work towards that vision, you can make every sentence come true. So the reason most people are stuck is they're not inspired, they're not driving forward, they don't have goals. And so they just get stuck in this negative energy vortex.
Yeah, and I think the piece, and I've been a big fan of Double Double and Vivid Vision for a long time and use those in my businesses, is most people just lack that clarity. And you don't have clarity, then you can't create a plan for that and actually execute on that. So
Right.
where is the best place for them to find that? Because I know you have a lot of great free resources for people that are going, maybe I need to reforecast my vision right now, or I need to get a little bit more clear in my vision. Where's the best place for them to find that? I know it's inside Double Double in the book.
Yeah, Double Double, chapter 1. The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, there's a chapter on vivid vision there. And then also the book Vivid Vision itself, if they really want to do a deep dive, it's about a 2-hour, 3-hour read that gives you all of the step-by-step instructions on how to craft your vivid vision for your life and for your business.
So scaling right now is obviously, I'm calling this separation season. I think you're going to see when all the dust settles who really put in the work and adapted and pivoted and leaned into their people and doubled down on the right things. They're going to separate their brands, their businesses, their bank accounts from where they were pre-COVID. And so
It's a very, very good time for the people that have abundance mindset and are focused on growth. They will grow right now.
Yes.
In every economic downturn, there's lots of companies in every industry that kick ass, and there's lots of companies that do poorly. And in every boom, in every great market, there's companies that do poorly. There's all kinds of companies that were going bankrupt in 2019. It was a 9-year economic boom, and they were going bankrupt. They were going bankrupt because they weren't focused. They weren't taking care of their customer. They weren't taking care of their employees. There was too much waste. So in every market, whether it's an up or a down market, companies will do bad or will do well. It's just really up to choice.
How important is it? I know, for a lot of people, right? Operations, systems, it's this dry, boring, painful thing for a lot of people. And yet scaling requires people and sound systems. How much should people be dividing attention and balance between working in the business and kind of playing defense and keeping things rolling, and also kind of the offense and working on the business and things that might help them scale?
Well, in offense, you can be working in your business, and that's still offense as well. I think right now you want to be working on a few things. You want to be doing anything you can that will drive revenue. You want to be doing anything you can that will increase gross margin, so that's cutting your cost of goods sold. And you want to be doing anything right now that will decrease any of your unnecessary overhead or waste. In terms of the systems, you want to be working on your business in terms of anything like growing your employees' skills, growing your skills, growing your business capacity, growing your brand, growing relationships with customers, suppliers, like leveraging video. Anything that you can do that will grow, putting systems and SOPs or playbooks in place that will allow you to operate more efficiently, more effectively, using things like, if this, then that, or Zapier to automate processes in your business. Any things like that can be powerful. I would be careful with working on things that add overhead. I wouldn't necessarily be adding IT infrastructure or overhead, but I would work on things that are forward-facing, customer-facing, and then are going to drive revenue, gross margin, and reduce overhead.
If you had to consult that small, let's say 10 employee and under business right now, and I know, there's some variables in here that I'm not going to be able to give you to maybe round off helping you answer this question, but should companies right now, with the current COVID crisis we all find ourselves in right now, focus on customer acquisition or customer retention, and why?
A bit of both. I mean, again, it depends on the business you're in. That's a tough question because we're not really sure whether. So some of it is customer. First off, I think that the number one goal of every company is your employees' satisfaction. It's how happy are your employees. The happier your employees are, so whatever your employee net promoter score is, that's going to drive customer engagement. Happy employees make happy customers. And then if you focus on customer engagement second, so super happy customers, that's where your profits come from. So I'm really, really kind of obsessed around probably more customer retention and customer happiness. And then because you got super happy, engaged employees, super happy, engaged customers, the customer acquisition goes easier.
Right. That makes total sense. So I want to shift a little bit for you on your personal side of things. Sure. Where is your mindset in regards to wealth building through this next cycle? Obviously, kind of with this reset happening, and we don't necessarily know where the trough is or when we'll actually reach it. However, people like you and obviously other individuals that, we get to surround ourselves with and are in masterminds with, they're doing things right now or positioning them things for things right now. Where's your mindset at with your own wealth building? And
Yeah. So I was actually very public about this in January. In January 29th, I think it was, I did a Facebook post that I remembered the J.D. Rockefeller story from 1929 where he got a stock tip from a shoeshine boy. And on January 29th of this year, I had 2 Uber rides on the same day, and both Uber drivers gave me stock tips. And I remember thinking to myself, there is no fucking way that my Uber driver, like an Uber X driver, should be giving me stock tips. I'm out. And so I contacted my US and my Canadian investment advisors and got rid of 50% of my portfolios in both countries, moved 50% to cash. Right when we hit the major downturn, when we were down like 36% over the course of a week, I put 25% of all the cash, I put 25% of that cash back into the market. So I kept 75% of my cash in cash or in very liquid funds, with the plan to go back in 2 to 3 more tranches. So I'm waiting for the next downturns to start. I just believe that we're going to have that economic recession. I didn't pull 100% of my money out in case I'm wrong. I do understand that you can't time the market, but there's 3 economic signs that are happening right now. The first is the volatility in the markets. The VIX is very, very high. So there's an economic number that's measured every day. It's very, very, very high. Secondly is in November, Apple, Google, and Warren Buffett all publicly showed that they were sitting on the highest percentage of cash on their balance sheets in history. So when cash is king in a recessionary market, Warren Buffett has always said, when people are fearful, be greedy. When they're greedy, be fearful. So when they're sitting on cash, for me, it was time to build up cash. And then the third was all of the trucking companies were starting to show signs that they were down in fourth quarter. So when they were already down in fourth quarter, their first quarter results for trucking, fulfillment, and shipping are going to be way off again. And you started seeing it with FedEx coming off, UPS coming off, but the 10 major carriers in the US had downturns already, which meant the major brands, manufacturers weren't supplying, weren't shipping, weren't sending, weren't buying. That's a bad sign for the economy right now. Yeah. So that's why, so I went to cash heavily in January and February. I had all of my clients go to cash, pay off debt. So I'm actually sitting in a really good position. I got rid of some overhead that I didn't need. So I cut back on some overhead. So I'm sitting in a very good, building up even more cash position. So I'm feeling pretty good about things. But I'm also very cautious because I believe we're going to be going into a 2 or 3 year depression, not just recession, but a 2 or 3 depression, which is interest rates, which is unemployment over a certain percent and number of quarters that we're hitting. And I think we're just going to be there for a long period of time. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people, you and I connected through GoAbundance a couple of years ago, and the overall pulse is, everybody's being optimistic, or you're hearing a lot of people, oh, it's going to be a quick bounce back. And my take on that is it's going to be a lot slower and a lot longer and a lot harder than I think most people are expecting right now. And
you can't bounce back as an economy when you have 25 million people unemployed.
Yeah, there's no way.
So every job that was added since 2009, we've now lost. That's a lot of people to absorb back into the economy. And there's a lot of companies that haven't even started having bad results yet.
Correct.
The retail chains haven't started bankrupting. The investment companies haven't going bankrupt. The real estate companies haven't started announcing bankruptcies. Hotel chains, airlines, like all of these first quarter results are going to be brutal. And when those brutal results come in, that's what sends fear through the uninformed, optimistic market. The smart money is already sitting on the sidelines. The smart money has been on the sidelines for 2 months now. Like the real big Wall Street money is sitting on the sidelines and parked.
Well, it's still in the first inning, right? And so I kind of equated the analogy of the atomic bomb we all watched explode on the horizon, but we haven't felt all of the ripple effects and aftershocks yet. And when we do, I think it's going to be, I've never been a doomsdayer, right? But all the data and at least the sentiment from the people who are way smarter than me, way more resource capitalized, resumed, and tenured than me are all saying this is going to be a big one. And I don't even know how to feel about this right now because we've never seen anything like this before.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody the other day said to me, I've never been a doomsdayer. I've never been negative. I was like, yeah, but you're 34 years old. You've never actually been through a recession.
Right.
As an adult.
Yeah, because I came in 2010 So I came in at the bottom. I didn't see or feel or have any responsibility when the explosion happened.
Right. So you've never been an adult going through a recession. So of course you don't have the data or the wisdom to know what it feels like or what really happens. Whereas like I remember in 1982 when we had 18.75% interest rates. 18%.
That's crazy.
I sat with a guy who sits on the Federal Reserve Bank who sees interest rates going back to 13%. So we don't understand that. But I remember getting my first mortgage in 2000 and I got a 6.5% mortgage. I was like, fucking A, this is so good. It felt free to me. 6.5. I was like, this is ridiculously cheap. Now, if you said you're going to pay 6.5% for a mortgage, people would think you're crazy.
Yeah.
So things change and people need to have some of the wisdom and the patience with it all. There's going to be a massive economic reshuffling because there is $4 trillion that's come in. But remember, the vast majority of people aren't invested in the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of Americans are not invested. So the fact that the stock market's doing great is only helping the top 1% to 2%.
Right.
The other 98% live paycheck to paycheck. So the fact that all of that money is going to go in and is going to make those asset prices go up isn't necessarily going to change businesses, right? The average American right now is going to get wiped out.
Yep. Because
everything is going to get more expensive for them and they're not going to have jobs or they're not going to have enough money coming in or they're not going to have dual income and we've got some negative waves coming. We have the baby boomers. The oldest baby boomer is 78 today. The youngest is 56. They're starting to sell their bigger houses. And Gen Y doesn't want the big homes. So the bigger home real estate market is going to really hurt for the next number of years as the baby boomers start to sell. Second thing is we've got autonomous vehicles, robotics, and AI coming in place, which allows all of those people to get displaced out of the job market. So now for the next 3 years, you've got all those people being displaced, plus the 25 million that are currently out of work, plus the global supply chain seizing. This ain't going to be a fun 3 years.
It's going to be wild, man. And a lot of that unemployment, in my opinion, is underreported when you look at cash workers, immigrants, people who haven't even gotten into the system yet.
That's true too. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, all of those cash workers that are unemployed as well, like every maid, every yard person, every cleaning person, all the massage people, like people cutting hair, they're not declaring income.
No.
They're all unemployed as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting. And I agree, this ripple effect. And, not to scare people, because as an entrepreneur, you've already bet on yourself to operate in times of uncertainty anyways, right? So now it's just going, all right, this board game that I thought I was playing is no longer going to be the board game that I'm playing post new life of COVID, right? So how do I sit down, learn the rules, learn how the other players move, learn the strategy to win the game, and bet on myself again that I'm going to figure this out and capitalize on opportunity, right?
I think those are the people that are going to do well right now, are the ones that are entrepreneurial, right? Whether you're entrepreneurial in a job or you're entrepreneurial with your company or you're entrepreneurial as a freelancer, you spot opportunities, you capitalize, you invest wisely, you invest in yourself, you'll do well in this time. The people that have that feel that that they're owed something are the ones that are going to struggle, because you're not owed anything. No one actually owes you anything.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, in regards to some of the leaders that you're leaning on and you're paying attention to, that others might be able to pay attention from afar, who are some of your favorite kind of influencers and motivators that are, kind of inspiring you or guiding you during these times?
Yeah, so mine are less of a certain person. Like I just watched this Ray Dalio talk the other day, the guy who wrote Principles, and it was just on the economy and investing and stuff. I thought that was some really good insights. I'm in a number of different mastermind groups, Genius Network, War Room, and Baby Bathwater, that I really get a lot of insights and information from those people and staying focused and positive. But I'm also just very focused on my vision and what I'm building right now with the COO Alliance and the Second in Command podcast, and really driving both of those.
Talk about those for a quick second. For those that, and again, you guys heard Cameron's bio. So obviously, what kind of businesses he's built, at what levels he built them at. And you have your podcast that you're putting out a ton of value and, free content for people to tap into, as well as the COO Alliance, which is unlike anything in the world. For those that don't know what kind of value you're putting out or who that serves, talk a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, so one of the things I realized was that there were a lot of really great groups for entrepreneurs, right? You've got YPO and EO and Vistage and GoBundance and Genius Network and Baby Bathwater and Maverick, Summit, and all these amazing infinite number of groups for entrepreneurs.
Right.
And then there's groups for lawyers and engineers and bankers and marketers, but there was never a group that was truly for the second in command. So we started an organization called the COO Alliance. We have 5 events per year. Members pick 3 of the 5 events to go to. No entrepreneurs are allowed. It's only the COO or the second in command. And you need to do at least 5 million in revenue to qualify. So we want real companies. That's the COO Alliance. So I'm really scaling that. And then I started a podcast. One is a way to give value back to the members and the community, and as a way for brand building. Everyone interviews the entrepreneur. And I thought about my mom and dad. If you asked my dad, how did you raise your kids? He'd have a very true story. If you asked my mom, how did you raise your kids? She'd have a very true story. They were married the entire time, but they have very different stories on how they grew the family. I want the rest of the story. We listened to, Kendra Scott and how she built her jewelry company, but I want to hear from Lon, who is her COO. Or you listen to Brian at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, how he built 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I want to hear Cameron's story, or Eric, the new COO's story. Or you listen to Tobias, who built Shopify. I want to listen to Harley Finkelstein, the COO. So we're only interviewing COOs. We have no entrepreneurs allowed on the show. We've had the COO of Bumble, the COO of the Cleveland Indians, COO of YPO, like all kinds of great seconds in commands on the podcast.
What are some of the great characteristics you find in a COO versus an entrepreneur?
The COOs want to make the entrepreneurs' dreams happen. The COOs don't want to be entrepreneurs. The COOs tend to ask a lot of questions and think in systems and putting playbooks and systems in place. The COOs want the details and the data, and the CEOs tend to be fairly high level. They tend to be a little bit more scattered. They tend to be perpetual motion machines. They tend to come up with lots of ideas. They tend to trust very quickly and dump things on people's plates. And they're very, very much a yin and yang relationship. A really good CEO and COO relationship is really powerful.
How can somebody find that kind of Batman to, or that Robin to their Batman? If they're the COO, the flying by the seat of their pants, constantly in motion, some of those people, I'm like going, yeah, that's me.
The first thing the entrepreneur has to do is make sure they have an executive assistant. Most people make a mistake and they'll go out and hire a second in command before they have an executive assistant. So I've always said, if you don't have an EA, you are one. Right? If you don't have an executive assistant, you are one.
Yep.
And then if you hire an executive assistant, usually buy yourself another full year of not needing to have a second in command at that point.
Right.
Second thing is I look at and make a list of all the stuff I'm good at and all the stuff I suck at, all the things that I work on day to day that I get energy from, and all the stuff that drain me of energy. And then I'm going to look to find a second in command who likes to do all the stuff I suck at and all the stuff that drains me. They love that stuff and they don't want to do the stuff I do. And then the third part is to find somebody who you implicitly trust. You give them the keys to your bank account. So it's doing the actual reference checks and the interviews and really, really getting to know them so that day one, you know everything about them. There's nothing left to learn.
Yep. Yeah. My COO took years for me to find. And it's one of those things where you got to always be recruiting for talent, building relationships. How often do you see somebody get it right on that first time, or how long does it usually take for them to identify that rock star talent, perfect, yin to the yang fit?
It really depends on how clearly they think about the scorecard. What are the core things this person's going to have to get done in their first 12 months with you? Mm-hmm. What are the behavioral traits you want them to exhibit and live by? So if you know what they're going to be doing and you know how they're going to be exhibiting themselves or showing up, then you tend to know what you're looking for. When you know what you're looking for, you tend to know where those people hang out. Right? So, years ago, I was running a house painting business. This was my first real company. I had 12 employees when I was 20 years old. And I remember thinking to myself, I needed to go hire some athletes, some university kids who were athletes. I'm like, where do athletes hang out? We didn't have social media to do advertising. You had to go put up flyers and talk to people and network to get them. So I thought, you know what? They hang out at the gym. So I went up to the gym at university, which was near my house, and there was nobody in the gym. I'm like, oh, fuck, that sucks. So I'm like, maybe they're in the basketball court. So I ran over to the basketball court, and sure enough, there's all these guys playing pickup basketball. So I stood at the door, and I remember being really nervous, and then I just screamed out, Hey, is anybody in here looking for a summer job? I'm looking to hire people to paint houses. I pay $15 an hour. And these guys stopped, and this one guy walked over. His name was Mike Scott. Mike goes, I'm looking for a job. Tell me about this house painting thing. So I told him. He goes, how many guys do you want to hire? I'm like, I need 5. He goes, I've got 2 roommates. They're both looking for jobs. Can we come and meet with you after dinner? I'm like, that would be great. 3 guys showed up at my house at 6 o'clock. The next morning at 8 a.m., 3 guys were working painting houses.
Love it.
But I knew what I was looking for.
Yes.
I knew where they hung out. I could describe to them what I was building and get them excited about it. So it's easy to find people when you know what you're looking for.
Going back to vision. I love it. Cameron, you are the man, brother. As always, I've been grateful to have a virtual mentor like you that has been leading from the front, especially in storms like we're all feeling and experiencing right now, to have kind of those lighthouses that spotlight the most important things when there's a lot of fog, a lot of noise for a lot of people. I just want to, commend you and acknowledge you for the work that you do and just putting out so much quality content for a lot of people, and being so generous with your time and your resources. For those that want to check out the podcast, that want to check out COO Alliance, where is the best place for them to follow you, learn more about your content? We'll be sure to link all that up in the show notes.
Sure. If they go to the CameronHerolds.com, that's probably the best place to get all the overall information. If they want information on the COO Alliance, as long as they're 5 million or greater, they can go to COOalliance.com. And then all of my books, the 5 books, Double Double, Free PR, Meetings Suck, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and Vivid Vision, are all available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. And then, of course, the Second in Command podcast is anywhere that you listen to podcasts, it's up there.
I feel like it would only be fitting to finish the interview with some positivity. And obviously in times like right now, a lot of craziness. What has been your silver lining? What have been some of the most positive things you have found in times like right now?
There's 2 things. One is I decided that during this time, what's one thing that I can do that I can maybe learn or have some fun at? So I'm trying to figure this little
nice.
This
some guitar.
It's fucking hard, man, but I'm like getting there. I'm working on Brown Eyed Girl right now, and I sound like I'm stepping on the guitar, not playing it. I'm working on it. So that's fun, just every day, just trying to learn something a little bit. Secondly is to remember to not take ourselves so seriously, because none of us are getting out of this alive.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all going to die. This is just what we're doing to make money, and just remember to have fun on the journey as part of it.
Great reminders. Cameron Herold, appreciate you, man.
Matthew, thanks, buddy. Appreciate the time.